Chapter 41, Untitled. On a black and hot hill, two demons were fighting fiercely. One of them had a big head with demon horns protruding straight and sharp. It was good at attacking through collision. The other demon had strong hind legs and was good at jumping. Both of them were preying on each other, their eyes bloodshot. Their surroundings were now a great mess. The battle did not take long to reach a conclusion. The demon that was good at jumping found an opportune moment to pierce his fangs through the neck of the big-headed demon, landing a fatal blow. Purple blood oozed out, and the victorious demon stepped on his enemy's corpse and howled wildly. Just when he lowered his head to enjoy his spoils, a black shadow shot at him from behind. This demon that was good at jumping was shocked. He turned and tried to escape, but that black shadow pounced on him and bit his hind legs directly. The demon only managed to look at the predator at this point. It was a three-headed hellhound. This hellhound was still small, but the bites of its three heads were rather startling. After being bitten, the demon kicked his hind legs desperately, wanting to throw the little hellhound down. But no matter how he struggled, the hellhound did not loosen its grip. It just swayed around in the air. This demon picked up a stone from the ground and smashed it at the hellhound, but the hellhound chose this moment to loosen its grip. The little demon could not stop his attack in time and actually smashed his own foot with the stone. The demon roared angrily and grabbed at the hellhound, wanting to tear this thing in half. However, one of the heads actually breathed a blast of cold air before his hand could reach, nearly freezing his hand. After breathing out the cold air, the hellhound jumped, moved to the other side of the demon, and all three heads bit the demon. The demon screamed in pain and tried to jump out of the battlefield, but a sense of paralysis crept up the first bitten leg, making it so stiff that he fell to the ground. Seeing the demon falling to the ground, the hellhound rushed up excitedly, but it was careless this time. The demon rolled on the ground and punched the hellhound coming at him. The hellhound wailed as it flew out from the impact. It was not injured, but it hurt. The hellhound stood up and whimpered aggrievedly. Answering its sobs, a voice came from above. "Okay, okay. Fat Tiger, you've done well." The wounded demon stiffened and looked up into the sky only to see a bigger demon flapping his wings and descending. He immediately realized that he would not be able to get away. It was Roy. Fat Tiger wagged his tail after he landed, rubbing himself against Roy's legs. In the past few days, Roy had been taking Fat Tiger out hunting to train his battle skills. Fat Tiger was indeed a hellhound. He battled fearlessly, rushing up without hesitation even if the demon or monster was bigger than him. However, he was in his infancy and could not yet complete a kill alone many times. Even so, Fat Tiger's auxiliary combat skills were remarkable. He was a qualified hound. Roy squatted and caressed Fat Tiger's head as a compliment. He then walked up to that injured demon, grabbed his hind legs, and smashed him into the ground twice, immediately killing him. Together with that big-headed demon not far away, Roy obtained two prey. Roy stored one of their souls and gave the other to Fat Tiger. This was what Roy had discovered when he was training Fat Tiger recently. He might be a custom-made creature, but he was not a demon. However, perhaps because Fat Tiger was created by a soul, he could actually devour souls like a demon. Moreover, he would grow bigger every time he did that. Fat Tiger was no longer a puppy with a size of 10 centimeters. He had now grown to about 40 centimeters, and his muscles were growing stronger as well. He had some might fighting and biting. His speed was increasing, but he still looked chubby. While Fat Tiger swallowed the soul, Roy collected some burnt blackwood, piled them together, and called out to Fat Tiger. Fat Tiger came running. One of his mouths opened and breathed fire onto the wood, lighting a fire immediately. Roy used this fire to start roasting meat. Ever since he had Fat Tiger, Roy had been eating cooked food whenever he wanted. It was an accidental windfall. Previously, he had to go to the Magma River to obtain a spark, but Fat Tiger was a portable lighter that he only needed to call. Roy distributed some of the roasted demon meat to Fat Tiger. Fat Tiger's three heads looked at Roy and barked their three different voices of awe, woo, and woof in unison to express his gratitude before starting the meal. Roy estimated that Fat Tiger would not need too long to reach the size that he initially set for him if Fat Tiger ate food and souls every day like how he was doing now. Roy's psychological goal for Fat Tiger was to be a fighting pet. After Fat Tiger mastered some fighting skills, Roy was toying with the idea of having Fat Tiger fight alongside him. It was rare to see a demon and a dog collaborating in the upper level of the abyss because demons usually operated individually and did not trust other demons at all. It was foreseeable that the demons Roy and Fat Tiger would encounter in the future were going to be really unlucky. During these past few days, Roy had been training Fat Tiger, but he had not stopped exploring. He had abandoned the nest he had found previously and was already far from it. The upper abyss was vast, and Roy's exploration was very different from the other low-ranked demons. Powerful demons usually drew an area and designated it as their territory. They would prey and hunt in their territories and would not move unless expelled by stronger demons. Roy's exploration often led him into the territories of other demons, and he would come under their attacks. However, Roy was no longer worried since he had the Bloodlust skill and Fat Tiger aiding him. Throughout his journey, he had killed all the demons that initiated fights, including some powerful top low-ranked demons. Roy was now almost unmatched among low-ranked demons, and he would not need to detour unless he encountered an oversized opponent. During his continuous exploration and advancement, Roy was naturally rewarded. He had found 3 places with altars of the Gate of the Abyss magic formation. Different from what Roy imagined, these altars were not necessarily found in extinct volcanoes. Some of them were in the open field. The 3 altars that he found undoubtedly covered a large area nearby. As long as there was an altar, the demons and monsters nearby would run to it from time to time, and then they would pass through the Gate of the Abyss. Although he did not know who built the altars, Roy guessed that their real role was not merely to let demons go to other worlds. A bigger possibility was that they were designed for battle. These altars were like base station signal towers. As long as they sent out a signal, the nearby demons would receive it. In addition to the altars, Roy had covered thousands of kilometers in this upper abyss. Up until now, he had not encountered a single middle-ranked demon, baffling Roy. Could the middle-ranked demons living in the lower levels of the abyss not be bothered to come up, or is there something that prevents them from coming up at all? Chapter 42, Summoned by Another Demon. Fat Tiger grew constantly as the days passed and became more ferocious with each hunt. However, Fat Tiger's growing curiosity from the curious attribute Roy set when designing him made Roy a little helpless. After being able to hunt alone, Fat Tiger stopped killing demons and monsters immediately, and he would tease them over and over. He would first let the prey escape and then chase it from behind. He would knock down the opponent with a swoop and then let the prey go again. He would simply use his claws to hold the opponent down if he saw some strangely shaped demons and then use the 6 sides of his 3 heads to observe the prey. He would only kill the prey when he got bored of it. And when Roy brought him on explorations, he would run around. Although he would run back quickly, he would come back with some strange things dangling in his mouth from time to time. Most of them were demon corpses in the wilderness, though there were also strangely shaped stones, eggshells left by certain monsters, and so on. He would offer the things he brought back to Roy, his master, and then look at Roy while waiting for praise with anticipation. Whenever this happened, Roy was caught between laughter and tears. The hellhound was a dog after all. The only saving grace was that Roy had yet to settle down and set up a home. Otherwise, Fat Tiger would have probably torn his house down like a husky. During this time, Roy had been feeding Fat Tiger a part of the hunted souls to promote his growth. He stored the remaining ones to make magic energy growth potions. After he set the definitions, these potions considerably increased the efficiency of souls, and this method of increasing his magic energy was much better than simply devouring souls. Roy's magic energy increased to more than 90 in 2 months. He was about to break 100. Fat Tiger had nearly matured, and the harvest he obtained from the Van Helsing world had almost been digested, so Roy could not help but want to satisfy his wanderlust in other worlds. After returning from the Van Helsing world, Roy understood one thing. The gates of the abyss probably connected to some parallel worlds. However, the main characters of these worlds were not true main characters because they could be killed far too easily. Therefore, Roy speculated that these so-called main characters were actually just special characters born at a certain point in the evolution of these worlds. Even if they no longer existed, the worlds would still exist and continue to operate and evolve. Only a Van Helsing world might not be able to show it, but Roy had a premonition that if he chose to be summoned again, he would likely be more or less familiar with that world. Whether demons or angels, they were both creatures imagined by humans in the final analysis. Since they truly existed now, it meant that human fantasies became realities. The originally fantasy world of Van Helsing became a real parallel world, so it would not be surprising if other worlds that humans fantasized about were to appear. Roy did not know why this happened, but he felt that it was probably related to humans. He linked it to how his system transformed and materialized the things he drew. It made Roy increasingly wonder whether or not all information might be materialized. The human imagination was very rich. They generated a lot of information when their fantasies about the mysterious were recorded and materialized through images. This information gave birth to the existence of angels and demons. At the same time, it spawned numerous fantasy worlds. In turn, angels and demons continuously appeared in the human worlds, which also deepened the human cognition of the two, so the fantasy became clearer and clearer. Humans, angels, and demons then formed a cyclical mutual interference. Souls became something that connected all three of them, thus seeming so important. Roy had conceived these thoughts, but he did not know if he was right since he was actively trying to find a reasonable explanation for all this. Not only him, but humans had been looking for logical explanations to explain the unknown since ancient times. Perhaps he could only find the answer after more contact with the abyss, the human worlds, and even the angel world. After a few days, Roy found a new altar with Fat Tiger. This was the fourth altar he found so far, and it was in between two adjacent mountain valleys. "Fat Tiger, jump up." Roy stepped onto the altar and waved at Fat Tiger to come over. Roy went up and sat near the edge of the magic formation while Fat Tiger followed and sat beside him. Roy waited silently for the magic formation to open, for someone to summon a demon. Roy had no clue whether or not he could bring Fat Tiger along. While Fat Tiger was a hellhound, he was not of the demon race, so Race was not sure if the gates of the abyss would accept him or not. Even if it could accept him, Roy did not know if the Ouroboros mark would be effective on him or not. Therefore, if Fat Tiger really could not be summoned over as well, Roy could only reject the contract and come back. Then he would wait for Fat Tiger to grow into a full-fledged adult before Roy could rest assured and travel to other worlds. He could also let Fat Tiger guard the altar and drive the nearby demons away in case he was injured when he returned. It was just an experiment this time, so Roy did not need to consider anything about offerings. However, he felt that it was important to be vigilant. The worlds that demons could travel to usually had the existence of their archenemies, the angels. They might not necessarily meet head-on, but he had to be careful. Moreover, he took advantage of Gabriel previously and took one of his soul fragments away. Therefore, Roy needed to take precautions in case he might encounter a stronger incarnation of Gabriel. He knew that a weaker incarnation of Gabriel, like Van Helsing, was rather rare. Moreover, a soul fragment of an angel would immediately be retrieved by the light of heaven after leaving its incarnation. If Gabriel sensed any problems with the soul fragment, he would immediately descend to protect it. Under such double protection, it was a miracle that he had managed to bring back the soul fragment. The souls of angels had been successfully obtained by demons before. Otherwise, fallen angels would not exist. However, it was very rare for demons to obtain souls at the level of Gabriel. It was 1 in 10,000. He was lucky, but Roy was definitely blacklisted by heaven. Once caught, he would certainly be hammered to death, so he had to be careful. Roy did not wait too long before the magic formation on the altar lit up. Roy hugged Fat Tiger, placed him under his armpit, and stood in the magic formation. The aura on the other end of the gate of the abyss was bloody and hot, and the bloody smell was strange as well. It seemed to be mixed with something, unlike the ordinary bloody smell. Roy merely wanted to test it out this time, so he did not think too much of that strangeness and immediately responded to the summon. What Roy did not notice was that the Fat Tiger in his embrace sniffed the smell he thought was strange in excitement. The mist from the gate of the abyss enshrouded Roy. He realized with joy that the Fat Tiger in his arms was disappearing along with him. It seemed like he really could bring Fat Tiger through the gates of the abyss with him. Fat Tiger looked a little nervous. It was his first encounter with the gate of the abyss. He looked at his master, Roy, and himself turning into nothingness and could not help barking. The light went from bright to dim and then again from dim to bright. After experiencing the same thing he went through previously, Roy found himself in a strange environment. He was also in a magic formation, but the surrounding was fuming hot, misleading Roy into thinking that he was still in the abyss. Fat Tiger was still in his embrace. At the same time, Roy could feel that the repulsive force of this world on him was not as strong as the previous world. While Roy was feeling the differences in his surroundings, a voice rang beside his ear. "Oh. Seems like a demon that isn't a hellhound has also been summoned. How strange. Does he also like blood mixed with the urine of a griffin?" Roy turned and looked at the owner of the voice. He was flabbergasted. The owner of the voice turned out to be a demon. This demon was a humanoid one with crimson skin. He had a leather whip in his hand, a black steel helmet covering his face, and a pair of long black demon horns protruding out of his helmet. He was big, and even though he did not have a pair of demon wings behind him, his entire body had the aura of burning sulfur. He was definitely a demon. What baffled Roy the most was that he could feel a strong sense of suppression by the demon, making him really uncomfortable. Perhaps it was because Roy stared at him for quite some time, but the demon suddenly felt uncomfortable, so he whipped Roy and shouted at him, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and get out of the magic formation." Chapter 43, High-Rank Demon. Roy felt pain the moment the whip lashed onto him, showing the demon's great strength. The pain made Roy angry. He could feel that the demon in front of him was not simple, but he had to show the temper befitting that of a demon right now. Therefore, Roy roared, dropped Fat Tiger from his arms, and rushed at the demon. Once Fat Tiger landed on the ground, he barked and followed Roy to attack. The demon was already standing not far away at the edge of the magic formation. Roy's charge brought him almost instantly to the other party. He stretched out his claws, grabbed the demon's neck, and tried to press him down. However, what he did not expect was for the demon to not dodge and instead hit the corner of Roy's mouth backhanded. The tremendous force was difficult for Roy to withstand, and he flew straight out. When Fat Tiger rushed out to bite the demon's leg, he was also sent flying with a kick, causing Fat Tiger to whimper while in the air. Pooh! Roy stood up from the ground and spat out purplish-red blood. This demon's punch nearly made all his teeth fall out. Roy knew that he had encountered someone powerful this time. Is this demon a middle-rank demon? Or the more powerful high-rank demon? Roy could not be sure, but he could feel the aura from his opponents suppressing him. Under the influence of this aura, Roy felt that nothing in his body was functioning well, and he could not fully exert his strength. This was definitely the suppression that only a demon with a higher rank than him could possess. After standing up, Roy helped Fat Tiger up. His 3 head shrunk at Roy's feet, seeming to air his grievance to his master. Eh? Seeing this scene, the demon was a little surprised and could not help saying, "I thought you were teleported while battling this hellhound. Seems like that isn't the case." Roy did not answer. He opened his demon wings, flew up, and dived at the demon with the help of gravity. It was not like he was irrational, rushing to fight against a more powerful opponent. He knew that a demon summoner was definitely not anything good. This time, Roy did not choose well in responding to the summon. He did not want to sign a contract with a demon, so he had to resist and not give the demon time to express his wishes. There would be no demon contract if the other party could not express his wishes. He could then return to the abyss with the repulsive force of this world. And Roy's current advantage was that he came through the gate of the abyss, so the Ouroboros mark protected his soul from destruction. Even if he were to die fighting the other party, he would wake up in the abyss. Demon wings? Does he have the bloodline of a high-ranked demon? The demon was a little doubtful after seeing Roy's wings. He actually saw them when Roy first appeared in the magic formation. But in their collapsed form, he did not see them clearly and thought that Roy was just an ordinary winged demon, only seeing them clearly now that Roy spread them. Not all high-ranked demons had demon wings, but those with demon wings definitely had the bloodline of a high-ranked demon. It was a rule of the abyss. When this demon saw that Roy dared to resist, he wanted to kill him, but he dismissed that idea after seeing Roy's demon wings. He sneered and raised the whip in his hand, preparing to bring Roy down from the air. However, Roy used bloodlust on himself at that moment. His body glowed with red light, and his strength and speed suddenly increased. Before the whip could reach him, Roy knocked down this demon. His strength could not knock the demon down before, but he could now. With the enhancements from bloodlust and the dive attack, this demon could no longer stand steady. When he fell to the ground, 2 opposing forces collided and even made a big pit in the ground. At the bottom of the big pit, Roy pressed one hand on this demon's face, pressed the fingers of his other hand together to make a knife, and pierced straight at the opponent's heart. The demon felt the impending danger and reached out to grab Roy's claws. However, Roy's steel-like nails still stabbed into his chest, and purplish-red blood instantly splattered out. After being wounded, the demon under Roy was not angered but smiled instead. He held Roy's wrist tightly, preventing Roy from stabbing any deeper. "Ha ha ha. Good job, let me guess. You're planning to kill me and return to the abyss, right?" Roy ignored the demon with a cold expression. Although he could not get his hands out, he still had a tail. The 3-edged blade-shaped tail tip closed, raised high up in the air, and went for the demon's arm. Right at this moment, the 2 pupils under the demon's helmet suddenly lit up. Weakness. With the demon's voice, a dim light appeared on Roy. This light disappeared in a flash, as though it melted into his body. The next moment, Roy's entire body felt as though he had overexercised, suddenly feeling sore and weak all over. The tip of his tail merely scratched the demon's skin before it could no longer move forward. The effect of bloodlust was still going on, but it seemed as though Roy had lost its enhancements. The demon below him kicked and knocked him over. The moment he was kicked, Roy's heart squeezed. This demon was undoubtedly using magic. However, a weakness spell could actually offset the 40% enhancement of bloodlust. Just how high was the level of his magic? Fat Tiger immediately rushed over and guarded Roy when he landed. He gritted his teeth at the demon, all three throats growling with threat. After standing up, the demon sent his whip flying toward Fat Tiger and Roy. Although he had just used magic to make Roy lose his combat power in a flash, the holes in his chest created by Roy made him a little afraid. If he had released the magic a little later, his arm would have been pierced by Roy's tail, and he might not have had the strength to stop Roy's stab through his chest. Then his entire chest would have had a huge hole. Dumn it, judging from his aura, this demon is obviously merely a low-rank demon, but I almost suffered a huge loss. The demon could not help but be furious as he whipped Roy and Fat Tiger in anger. Roy still had some strength in his body at the moment, but he knew that he would not be able to win against the opponent as long as his magic continued. Therefore, he could only hug Fat Tiger in his embrace and shield his head with one head. Even though he was being whipped, he did not give the demon any pleasure by letting a single sound out. However, his eyes hidden beneath his arm stared coldly at the demon. He had to memorize how this demon looked. Fuck. I'll hunt him down and kill him no matter what in the future. After lashing out dozens of times in succession, the demon finally stopped. He seemed to perceive Roy's thoughts and sneered. Humph. Do you think you can go back? He grabbed the whip and pulled it twice, making it crackle crisply. Let me tell you, the power of Urgash, the Dragon of Chaos, affects this world, causing the repulsive force of this world to be much weaker for demons from the abyss. Even if they don't enter a demon contract, demons will stay in this world for a long time. If you really want to go back, you have to either activate the teleportation formation with your own magic power or be killed. What? Roy was shocked. Seriously? Seeing the shook on Roy's face, the demon laughed with satisfaction. That's right. Why else do you think we demons can have a foothold and go on a crusade in this world? He walked up to Roy, kicked him over, and stepped on his chest. You have to stay in this world for at least a year before you can be sent back through this world's repulsive force, so don't even think about running away. I have a lot of time to catch you again. At the same time, don't think about actively seeking death. There's something here that can completely annihilate the existence of a demon. You'd better behave yourself. A demon contract appeared beside Roy suddenly. However, don't say that I didn't take care of you. There are great benefits to staying in this world. Seeing that both of us possess superior lineage as high-ranked demons, I'll give you a chance. Sign this contract and submit to me, Zeron. Fight for me, and this contract will reward you with 10% of the spoils. This is the greatest concession I can give you. Chapter 44, Elite Demon. High-ranked demon? He's actually a high-ranked demon? Roy had a vague guess before. Even a middle-ranked demon could not have offset his bloodlust effect with a single spell. But hearing for himself the other party acknowledging that he was a high-ranked demon still left Roy in amazement. Damn it, what bad luck. I didn't expect a high-ranked demon to summon a demon. If I had known, I wouldn't have stepped into the magic formation and responded to the summon. Roy was very clear of how high-level demons viewed the low-level ones. There were only two attitudes, kill or enslave. There were no other options. Roy did not have to look at the demon contract to know that it was an enslavement contract. Roy did not want to become someone's slave, even if the other party was a high-ranked demon. Perhaps, in the eyes of other demons, it was a matter of course to submit to high-level ones, but Roy was an anomaly among demons. His mentality determined that he would never be willing to become enslaved. He was preparing to take a gamble and fight this demon. Even if his soul suffered damage, Roy wanted to go back. Even if the other party was also a demon and an expert in playing with souls, as long as it was not an archenemy of demons like angels, he would not be able to break through the protection of the Ouroboros mark on Roy's soul. The problem was that Roy could not do anything about Zeron's magic. Zeron only needed to cast weakness to negate Roy's power. How could he fight under this circumstance? And from observing Zeron's attitude, he seemed unwilling to kill him. Roy could opt not to sign the contract, but then he would have to stay in this world for a year, and Zeron would most likely lock him up. What difference would that be from being imprisoned? After thinking about it, there was only one method, activating the magic formation on his own to go back. Therefore, while Zeron was still talking, Roy secretly placed his hand on the magic formation and attempted to input his magic energy to activate the teleportation formation. He recalled that it was possible to activate the summoning formation even with the weakest magic power. However, nothing happened. What's wrong? Is it because there was no ritual, or is it a different kind of summoning ritual when a demon wants to send itself back? Roy was still in dismay when Ch41 sensed that Roy had attempted to input his magic energy. Ch41 asked in a surprised tone, "You can output magic power?" "Ah, yes, you have the bloodline of a high-rank demon, so it's not surprising for you to have an output circuit." But Ch41 touched his demon horns with some doubts. "But when I activated the magic formation, it was meant to summon in the upper abyss. How did you, a demon with a high-rank bloodline, end up in the upper abyss?" As he said that, he looked at the fat tiger in Roy's arms. "And this hellhound, I have never seen a hellhound with demon wings. How peculiar. What kind of variant is this?" There were too many mysteries on Roy. And although Ch41 had doubts, he never doubted Roy's identity because Roy similarly had the unique demonic aura that belonged to the abyss of the demon world. He would not be mistaken about this. So after some doubts, Ch41 did not think much about it. Given how vast the abyss was it not normal for there to be a few strange things? He decided to let the matter go and instead increasingly wanted to subdue Roy. He felt that even though Roy was a low-rank demon, he was definitely an elite among them. There were similar examples before, and even demons of the same kind could have huge differences between them. Occasionally, a much stronger demon than the rest would be born, and these demons were known as the elite demons among that rank. Therefore, he took the rare patience he had and said to Roy, "As I've told you, don't waste your energy. If you really want to send yourself back, you need to reverse input magic power in the summoning formation, but this requires not merely a little but a massive amount of magic. If you think you can easily send yourself back, you'd be wrong." He gradually grew impatient while speaking. "There's a limit to my patience. I will give you one last chance. If you're unwilling to sign the contract and submit to me, then I will cuff you and throw you into the human countries. Those angels in the city and the clouds will play a good host." Roy was helpless. He felt that there was no way back, so he could only stare at the wording of the contract. The contents of this demon contract were as such. Roy had to submit to Ch41. During his stay in this world, he had to obey his orders and fight for Ch41 as his subordinate until he died or was expelled. In this period, he had to hand over all the souls that he captured on the battlefield to Ch41. In return, Ch41 would provide Roy with fixed meals. It was initially like this. However, in order to attract Roy, an elite demon, Ch41 added a clause at the end of the contract: if a battle was won, then Roy would also get 10% of the souls harvested in the battle as a reward. Looking at the contents of the contract, it suddenly dawned on Roy why high-ranked demons like Ch41 would appear in this world. It was precisely because they could remain in this world for a long time, so they did not hesitate to build their armies and start wars in this world. For every battle won, the winning party could obtain a large number of souls on the battlefield. The way high-ranked demons harvested souls was much quicker than that of a lone demon hunting souls. If Roy were merely a normal low-rank demon, it would have been impossible for Ch41 to share the spoils of war, and he would have treated Roy like a slave and ruthlessly exploited him. Roy had to admit that he was fortunate to have added demon wings in his modifications. High-rank demons paid attention to bloodlines, but Ch41 would never know that Roy's bloodline was actually very complicated. He only viewed Roy in a new light after mistakenly identifying his bloodline. In general, this contract was still an enslavement contract, but it was much better in comparison to what other summoned demons received. 10% of the souls meant that Roy had changed from a slave to a contractor. So, after closer examination and finding no traps in it, Roy signed and effected the contract. As he saw Roy signing the contract, Ch41 laughed with pride. He removed his helmet to reveal his appearance. It was a human-like face. If not for those demon horns, Roy would not have any doubts that he was a human. Being humanoid was often a characteristic of high-rank demons. "Come down. I still need to continue with recruitment." Ch41 pointed at Roy. "You are the owner of that hellhound, so I won't sign a contract with it. You are in charge of it from now on. Don't send it away. Whatever orders I give you applies to it as well." This was Ch41's order. Roy could not disobey it after signing the contract, so he nodded. In fact, this was fine. Only Roy knew that Fat Tiger was not a real hellhound and could not enter into a contract with anyone. And since Ch41 did not sign a contract with him, he would not find out about it. "I will now give you a task. Go to the surface and observe the progress of the volcanic crater. Ch41 continued, after I have summoned sufficient troops, I will detonate the volcano. Roy did not know why Ch41 wanted to detonate the volcano, but he did not ask and left with Fat Tiger. He was currently underground, and the reason he experienced a burning sensation when he emerged from the summoning formation was because of the volcano. This place seemed to be the position of one of the underground magma rivers, and following along the magma river was the entrance to the bottom of the volcano. After climbing out from the bottom to the crater, Roy found that there were already a large number of abyss creatures here, but most of them were low-level demons. They were following a set of drawn patterns while making a mercury-like liquid and pouring it onto these patterns to form a large magic formation surrounding the volcano. Thinking about what Ch41 said earlier about wanting to detonate the volcano, Roy instantly understood the use of this magic formation. Its use was to forcefully detonate the volcano. Otherwise, Roy guessed that this volcano would not erupt in the near term. Seeing these low-level demons at work, Roy did not intervene. He flew into the sky with Fat Tiger and looked at the surroundings of the volcano. Hey! Gash, the Dragon of Chaos, and that city in the clouds. The heroes of might and magic world that I've been summoned to this time is a very dangerous world. Roy mocked. Well, if it's very dangerous for a demon like me in this world, do you think a high-ranked demon like you will be safe? Wanting to enslave me, think again. Chapter 45, Building a City. After the completion of the pouring of mercury into the magic formation, Ch41 appeared at the crater. He stood at the edge of the magic formation as his hands began to glow, and his mouth changed something softly. After a while, the magic formation started to glimmer. Ch41 suddenly stomped his demon's hoof onto the ground. A loud noise reverberated, and the entire volcano began to shake. Like a major earthquake, the entire mountain was shaking, and many demons fell to the ground. The magic formation that Ch41 had them fill was actually an amplifying formation. He used the effect of this amplification and cast the earthquake spell, letting the magic penetrate to the bottom of the volcano. Retreat! Ch41 ordered. The demons gathered on the volcano ran for their lives. Even though they had lived in a world with volcanoes and magma, it did not mean that demons were not afraid of a volcanic eruption. On the contrary, demons most feared volcanic eruptions because they clearly knew the destructive power of volcanic eruptions. There were approximately 200 demons that Ch41 had summoned. Shortly after these demons fled for their lives, the volcano, which had been affected by the seismic activity, reached its critical point and made a deafening roar before erupting. Thick black smoke containing volcanic ash billowed into the sky from the crater. Due to the immense force of the volcanic eruption, numerous large and small burning stones spewed out of the volcano and flew in all directions like fairies scattering flowers. The sight was beautiful and terrifying. With the eruption, hot lava spilled out from the crater. The streams of fiery hot lava flowed down the volcano and burned all the trees and bushes along the way. Some little animals did not escape in time and perished in the flowing lava. The volcanic eruption took 2 hours before subsiding. But within a 5-kilometer radius of the volcano was all scorched earth, and not an inch of grass was left. Some of the lava had already begun to cool, turning into black ground, while some of it was still scorching hot and emitting dark red light and smoke. Ch41 looked at his masterpiece with pride and laughed wildly. He was very satisfied with the scorched land and thought that he could finally start building a city. Yes, the purpose of detonating the volcano was to build an environment suitable to live in for demons. Scenic greenery and water did not look demonic at all. Demons still loved these kinds of environments full of sulfuric air. Under Ch41's berating, the 200-odd low-level demons, including Roy, began to work. They found large rocks and leveled the ground as much as possible while the lava was still soft to build the foundation. After laying the foundation, they began building the city. Roy did not take part in the building this time. He brought Fat Tiger and became the supervisor of these demons. With the city blueprint and Ch41's leather whip in hand, he supervised these low-level demons to build according to the plan. These demons were not construction worker material, so Roy did not have it easy supervising them and could not take his eyes off their work. Otherwise, they would stack the walls like a pile of instant noodles in disarray. Moreover, the demons liked equipment. What they built was made of nothing but stone and wood, and such structures were unreliable and prone to collapse. But the demons had ideas too. As they were near a volcano, they sent some demons to obtain lava and waited for it to cool before pouring it onto the structures to fill the gaps and strengthen the walls. As the city gradually took shape, Ch41 brought new blueprints and got the demons to begin building their own living quarters. To put it bluntly, these were their nests. Every type of demon had their preferred nest styles. After construction, the demons spontaneously sorted themselves and moved into them. Ch41 once again engraved summoning formations among these nests and continued to summon the same types of demons into this world. For example, in the demon kennels used to house hellhounds, Ch41 would only summon hellhounds when he was among the kennels. Every time he summoned a new batch, he would sign a contract with these hellhounds and let them stay in these demon kennels. During this period, Roy had been secretly observing Ch41's actions. He realized that the demons that Ch41 summoned were typically from a few variants. It was likely because he needed similar types of demons in the same battalion, so he did not summon demons that were too complicated. And every time Ch41 summoned demons, he could accurately get what he wanted. Roy observed for a while before understanding the trick to it. Ch41 seemed to understand clearly what each demon liked. For example, when he wanted to summon the little demons, he added the powdered eggshells of birds and worms into fresh blood as offerings to modify the scent of the blood. Every time he used this type of offering, he could summon a large number of little demons. These little demons were naturally those that had not been born long and had just entered the upper abyss. Perhaps the smell of the powdered eggshells in the blood reminded them of the times that they just hatched and ate their demon eggshells, so they rushed to be teleported into this world. Once summoned, their fates were sealed. How much combat strength could these newborn little demons have? Ch41 summoned them to increase the number of construction workers and also to prepare cannon fodder for the fighting to come. In addition to summoning these little demons, there was also the method to summon hellhounds, adding the urine of a griffin to blood. Ch41 had caught some wild griffins and reared them. When he mixed the griffin urine into the blood, the temptation to hellhounds was absolutely astounding. This situation reminded Roy of his past life when he learned how to fish, using different bait for various types of fish. When Roy was responding to the summon at the gate of the abyss, he smelled this stench that was griffin urine mixed with blood. He was wondering why the bloody smell was strange, but little did he know that Ch41 was using this method to lure hellhounds. If not for his ignorance, he would not have entered mistakenly. The demon summoning ritual was such. Because you were unable to see what it was like on the other end of the gates of the abyss, there was no way to avoid risk. Once you encountered this kind of summoning trap, you could only rely on your strength to get out of trouble. Only a demon would best understand a demon. It was unknown how long this high-ranked demon, Ch41, had lived. When he felt he needed certain types of demons, he had the means to summon them. The abyss was so vast that no one had any idea how many demons were living in it. Even with the complicated bloodlines among low-ranked demons, with all sorts of different looks, it was not difficult to find many of the same kind among them. And without exception, he enslaved all the demons he summoned. In order to deal with the upcoming war, Ch41 could not let these summoned demons return easily. Here, Ch41 was a demon lord, and the summoned demons were his people. Since Ch41 blocked their way home, the demons could only let him get what he wanted. Of course, there were demons like Roy that did not cooperate after being summoned and resisted. However, after being whipped, they gave in, signed the contract, and obediently worked for Ch41. Roy witnessed this and turned a blind eye to it, having no sympathy for them. Instead, he knew that Ch41's actions were consistent with demon behavior. There was never any warmth between demons. Apart from killing, it was using. Only on a few occasions were their ideas similar. Even if high-level demons valued bloodline, it was only for those in the same rank. It was normal for the high-level ones to treat the low-level ones like slaves and beat them. Ch41 summoning demons to fight for him cost almost nothing, but the return was a large number of souls. With such a high rate of return, let alone demons, even human capitalists would come rushing. With the passing of time, this demon city gradually grew, and at this moment, 2 high-ranked demons appeared to meet Ch41. These 2 high-ranked demons came riding on nightmare horses and brought with them a small demon army. These nightmare warhorses were temperamental, and their bodies were covered in shiny, black, hardened skin. They had a single demon horn on their heads and 4 hoofs burning with flames, leaving a trail of burnt prints wherever they went. These nightmare warhorses were also demons and not monsters. Because they were intelligent, they were a kind of middle-ranked demon. Many high-ranked demons liked to enslave these nightmare warhorses to serve as mounts. Both the high-ranked demons wore cloaks and hid their looks. After entering the demon city, they began talking with Ch41 in the interior hall. Roy, this elite demon, had been serving as Ch41's deputy since he had a higher intelligence. So when the 3 high-ranked demons were speaking, Roy, who was waiting outside the hall, easily heard their conversation. Chapter 46, Dragons. Ch41, well done. I didn't expect you to cause the volcano to erupt and build a city so quickly. In the hall, one of the high-ranked demons said to Zeron, King Cregan is very pleased with your performance and has instructed me to bring you a reward. No matter what the reward is, nothing can make me happier than the impending war. Zeron replied. Did His Majesty say when we can start marching? Yes, we can get ready to set off. The high-ranked demon said. But there's a problem now. We might not be able to attack the capital of Arathia with our allies, the dungeon overlords. According to the reports from our spies, someone has blocked the path to Stedwick, the capital of Arathia. Who? Zeron asked with displeasure. The Avli elves. The high-ranked demon responded with great annoyance. They have always been allies of Arathia. Not long ago, a lord of the Avli elves brought troops and rushed to support Arathia. Now, they've not only blocked our path but also seem to have found out about our existence. According to the spy reports, they've stationed on the main road and built fortifications, preparing to stop our troops at the border of Arathia. Then kill them. Zeron pounded the table. Those weak elves, they can't stop us. With the iron hooves of our Inferno army, all obstacles will turn into ashes. Another high-ranked demon, who had kept quiet all along, spoke in a coveting manner. I have the same idea, Zeron. The souls of those elves are very delicious. Unfortunately, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. We've found out that among this army of Avli elves is the Gold Dragon Queen. She is leading a large number of gold dragons to assist the elven army. Rashka, Zeron, those gold dragons are hard to deal with. There was silence in the hall for a while before Zeron said, You're right, Ignatius. We need a stronger army lineup. The high-ranked demon known as Ignatius nodded. Summon some high-ranked demons. Only these high-ranked demons can help us against the gold dragons. The other high-ranked demon Rashka was unhappy. But if we summon high-ranked demons to help, we'll have to share some of the souls that we harvest. Zeron said, Just share them. With the dragons around, it'll be difficult to win by just relying on some low-level demons. Our first task now is to work with our allies and surround Stedwick. In the history of Arathia, it has never fallen into enemy hands. Now, we must make history. Good. We've reached a consensus. Ignatius said. So, who stays here to summon those high-ranked demons? I won't stay here. Rashka immediately said. Staying put in the demon city means I can't go out to fight and harvest souls. This is intolerable for me. Ignatius said to Zeron, then, Zeron, do you want to remain here? Why me? Zeron said with great displeasure, I've stayed here long enough this month just to build this damn city, and you still want me to remain here? I want blood, I want to kill, I want souls. Who can give these if I stay here? All right. Ignatius sighed. In that case, I'll stay. You guys can set off with the troops first and get rid of the small reconnaissance forces on the way. After I summon a large enough army of demons, I'll catch up. Ha ha ha. Ignatius, what a great buddy you are. Rashka laughed out loud upon hearing that Ignatius was willing to remain. Don't worry. I'll leave some of those pretty elven women for you. Say no more. I'm worried I'll regret it if you keep going. Ignatius said. Damn it. I should have just brought one of the heretic lords along when I came. That way, he could have stayed here while I went. In the Inferno faction, in addition to pure demons like Zeron, Rashka, and Ignatius, there were some lords who were believers of demons and could also lead demons in the war. These leaders were humans who were ostracized by the human kingdoms because of their belief in demons, and they were frequently known as heretics. Ignatius was referring to these lords. As Roy stood guard outside the door and listened to the conversation of the three high-ranked demons, he sank into deep thought. He knew that this was a Heroes of Might and Magic world. But because this was a real world, the situation was very different from the original one in the game. Here, the Inferno faction leader heroes were actually some high-ranked demons. They did not recruit their army using gold coins but summoned it from the abyss. Well, truth be told, what could demons do with gold coins? They did not buy anything and had no concept of money. The army of the other factions could have been recruited and probably trained. The heroes leading the troops were high-ranked demons, and the high-level soldiers were also big demons that were high-ranked demons. At most, their difference was between the top and the bottom. And this led to a problem. Zeron and the others had to modify the contract when they decided to fight against a strong enemy, but high-ranked demons could not enslave other high-rank ones, so they could only transact. The low-ranked demons were enslaved, while the middle-ranked demons were treated as mounts. Only the same high-ranked demons could transact equally. From this, it could be seen that the caste system among demons was divided very clearly. Only strength, bloodline, and rank were crucial in determining the status of a demon. Actually, from another perspective, Roy gained an advantage by staying in this world. In the Abyss, he had no opportunity to come into contact with high-rank demons, so he did not understand the class division among them. But in this Heroes of Might and Magic world, he had seen not only middle-rank demons but also high-rank demons. With more observation, he would likely be able to understand the differences between the ranks, which could prove useful for reference for his future promotion. What Roy discovered now was another huge difference. In the game, heroes led an army and used all types of magic and their own unique traits to provide assistance and bonuses to the army. And even the enemy could not attack them. But that was the game. Now in this real world, since heroes were leading the army, then they had to participate in the war. This was a very huge difference. Since they were participating in the war, it meant that the heroes could die, especially the belligerent races like demons. Roy did not believe that Zeron and the others would just hide behind the army and cast magic. He could tell from their enthusiastic talk about fighting. Since the heroes could die on the battlefield, then Roy had room to maneuver. The Heroes of Might and Magic world was one that centered around war, and it was not a bad idea for Roy to remain here. After all, he could amass a large number of souls to strengthen himself. However, even if he wanted to plunder souls, he did not want to do it under coercion. If possible, Roy certainly preferred waiting until he was more powerful before entering this world to fight as a hero. This way, he would not be picking up the leftovers of others but keeping all the harvest. Had it been Roy, he too would have liked to enslave other demons to fight for him and harvest those souls on his behalf. Although Roy had appeared to be obedient all this while, causing Zeron to let his guard down, Roy had never wavered in his desire to get rid of the demon contract. Since Zeron used the demon way to treat him, he too could use the demon way to treat Zeron. And the best way to get out of a demon contract in the demon way was to have the contractor die. If the scale of the war was not big enough, Roy would have had difficulty doing so. But now, Roy heard the best news for him. The enemy this group of demons wanted to deal with was actually dragons. Not only that, but there was also a queen of the gold dragons. Roy had initially been mentally prepared to work under Zeron for a long time, but little did he expect that the opportunity would come so soon. Roy might not be able to kill Zeron alone, but he could do it with the help of the dragons. As long as Zeron died in the battle with the Gold Dragon Queen, Roy would become free. So, it's time to plan. Chapter 47, Double-Edged Trap and Loopholes. After the three high-ranked demons finished their discussion, Zeron and Rashka walked out of the hall and immediately rounded up their army to prepare to set off. A large number of low-level demons flooded out from their nests and gathered. Zeron and Rashka led them out of the demon city. After they left, the army quickly split into two units. One was the force that Rashka brought, while the other was the one that Zeron summoned. Rashka's troops were the combination of Ignatius's troops and his own, so it was comparable to Zeron's in terms of number and strength. These two troops traveled separately though their mission was basically the same, eliminating the remaining reconnaissance teams of the Avli Elves and destroying any human and elven villages in sight to try to cut the supplies of the Avli Elves. Moreover, there was an added advantage by dividing into two, splitting the attention of the Avli Elves' main force. After all, the troops led by Zeron and Rashka consisted mainly of low-level demons. And despite the large numbers they had, their military strength was not high. In contrast, the Avli Elves had the help of the Gold Dragons and were definitely stronger. The two would merge during the final battle and wait for Ignatius to come with the high-level demon army from the demon city. Roy naturally followed Zeron's troops. The majority of this troop was little demons, with more than 500 of them. As cannon fodder, these little demons were naturally at the forefront of the army. At a glance, the troops had all kinds of little demons clustered together. The second largest group was a type of low-rank demon known as Gogs. These demons were very interesting. Although they were different individually, most of them resembled monkeys, and they got their name from the gog-gog sound they made. They were a rarity among the low-rank demons and could use flames to attack remotely. These flames were not magical, but from a special organ in their body that could secrete a flammable liquid as saliva. When a Gog spat the saliva on their palm and threw it, it interacted with the air to become a ball of explosive flames. Having such an attack method determined that they were highly regarded in the army. This ball of explosive flames was like a grenade and a nightmare to a large number of low-level enemies. However, the obvious shortcoming was that it could also hurt friendly forces by mistake. The third type of demons was the hellhounds, with only around 150 of them. However, these hellhounds were very different from Fat Tiger. Ordinary hellhounds could not breathe out the elements like Fat Tiger. Their attack method was simple, and that was to rely on their strong fangs to bite others. These hellhounds were bulky and had solid fur and muscles. Regardless of whether it was their charging power or their biting force, they were among the best. Fat Tiger was naturally an outlier among the hellhounds. Fat Tiger not only knew how to breathe out the elements, but he also had demon wings and could fly short distances. Roy was once worried that Ch41 could tell that Fat Tiger was different, but unexpectedly, Ch41 did not care that much. He just had Fat Tiger become the leader of the hellhounds, leading them into action. To Ch41, no matter how different Fat Tiger was, he was just another hellhound. For millions of years in the abyss, demons such as hellhounds had only managed to reach the top of the middle rank at the highest, and this much was not worthy of Ch41's attention. Fat Tiger became the boss of the hellhounds, and Roy was Ch41's adjutant. Low-ranked demons usually did not have much intellect, and even marching was a total mess, only knowing how to follow along. Therefore, one of Roy's tasks was to assist Ch41 train these low-ranked demons during the march, at least so that they could maintain formation. This task was neither hard nor easy. It was hard because Roy did not know what kind of formation the demon army should use. It was easy because Roy only needed to slap them when he noticed that the formation was messy during the march. It was simple and violent. With Roy, Ch41 had fewer things to worry about, which was why he insisted on keeping Roy. This army, apart from the chaotic demons, had many unique things. There were several huge bed crossbows and siege engines. Bed crossbows were the commonly known ballistas, and the siege engines were catapults. Ch41 had prepared these things to use to attack cities. Dozens of hellhounds were towing them, moving along with the army. And it was because of these instruments hindering progress that Ch41's army did not move too quickly. Having spent more than 1 month in this world, Roy gradually learned some information. The demon army was currently at the western border of the Kingdom of Arathia, and their target was to travel east, penetrate through Arathia, and destroy the capital of Arathia. At this moment, not only was the demon army of the Inferno moving, but the army of Necromancer Sandro and the army of the Dungeons Na as well. These three groups were now allies and coalition forces. Even though Roy knew that this was the Heroes of Might and Magic world, he really did not understand its history and background, so he did not know which war he had joined. However, it did not matter. All he needed to know was that the demon army's enemy was the alliance of the humans and elves. After the days of marching, the army was about a few hundred kilometers from the demon city. The scouts sent to explore returned to report that they had found the elves, finally seeing some signs of life. Upon hearing the report, Ch41 immediately brought the army to give chase. It seemed to be an elven village migrating. Maybe they heard about the volcanic eruption and the appearance of the demon city and knew that this continent was about to face the attack of the demons, so they decided to have the entire village leave to avoid the demon army. But now the demons have caught up. These migrating elves did not have the habit of sending scouts. Therefore, when Ch41 led the demon army and appeared behind them, these elves panicked. The old and young among them were escorted to escape quickly, while the younger and stronger ones stayed behind to buy time for them. Among these young ones were stout mine dwarfs and slender wood elves, who were good archers. Obviously, they had made the wrong decision. Just dozens of them were not a match for Ch41's demon army, and they could not resist for long. When they died, the demon army would catch the old and young who escaped. Demons never had any mercy, and Ch41 was no different. Upon seeing that these elves and dwarfs stared to stay back to fight against the demon army, Ch41 appeared enraged. He roared and ordered the little demons to attack. This group of little demons was accustomed to killing. They yelled and rushed at these elves and dwarfs in a mess. However, what greeted them were the arrows that the wood elves shot. The little demons charging at the very front were pierced through by these arrows. And standing at the rear, Roy could clearly see that a few little demons were shot dead by the arrows. They screeched as they died, and their bodies were suddenly engulfed by the black mist of the gates of the abyss before turning into ashes. What remained were balls of light that the gates of the abyss pulled back to the abyss. This was the first time that Roy had seen demons die in another world. Such a scene would not have happened in the abyss. When a demon was killed in the abyss, it was dead. But here, because of the Ouroboros mark, the moment of death marked expulsion from the world, and their souls were pulled back into the abyss. Though their injuries remained, their body was reconstructed. Although their souls were pulled back, those souls were most likely severely damaged, causing a decline in strength and possible memory loss. And most importantly, If there were demons with ill intentions lurking nearby, it was very probable that they would be killed and have their souls taken away immediately after returning. Thus, in general, demons were unwilling to be killed and expelled unless as a last resort. Although the wood elves had sharp archery skills, their number was too few. While the little demons were charging at them, they had only time to shoot 2 or 3 rounds of arrows, and there was a limit to how many little demons they could kill. When the little demons approached, the dwarfs holding hammers assumed the responsibility of protecting the elven archers. These weapon-wielding dwarfs were often so powerful that they killed the little demons with one blow during the fighting. But they also could not hold on for long. There were just too many little demons. Before long, the dwarfs and wood elves found themselves surrounded and beaten to death by those little demons. The battle ended quickly. When it was time to clean the battlefield, the little demons that died were expelled from the world, so no souls were left. But the dwarfs and elves were different, and their souls would definitely appear. The little demons collected the souls, and although they were salivating over them, they dared not swallow them but instead obediently handed them over to Ch41. After receiving these souls, Ch41 was very satisfied. Although there were too few enemies this time, and he had not enjoyed the thrill of battle, it was enough to harvest these souls. After choosing, Ch41 gave a few small souls to Roy and devoured the rest. These dozens of souls could only count as a snack for Ch41. Roy took these pathetic souls, knowing that this was his bonus from Ch41. At the same time, he knew what Ch41's first trap in the contract was. Ch41 had indeed promised to give Roy 10% of the souls after a victory, but he had not specified the quality of the souls and just calculated according to the quantity. Although it was a trap, Roy was unbothered by it. Humans had so many laws yet still had loopholes, not to mention demon contracts. The contract was only the size of a piece of sheepskin, but how detailed could it be? Moreover, Roy had already thought of the second trap Ch41 had laid. Ch41 could participate in the battles and devour the souls as he killed. The contract only stated that Roy was entitled to 10% of the harvested souls after victory, so before the battles ended, the souls Ch41 devoured did not count as the harvests of victory. Therefore, Ch41 did not violate the contract. Despite knowing that Ch41 was playing his own little calculations, Roy was not upset. Because he knew that since Ch41 could make use of the loopholes in the contract, he could do the same as well. As long as Roy joined in the battles, he could also devour souls on the battlefield. Furthermore, he could use the system to store the souls, including the ones on the battlefield. As long as the battle continued, those souls were not considered the spoils of war. Clearly, the loopholes and traps in demon contracts were sometimes double-edged swords. Chapter 48, Psychokinesis Template. Of course, Roy was not stupid enough to devour souls openly during battle. If Ch41 were to see it, he would flip out. Therefore, Roy decided that it was best to use the system's storage function to hide the souls. It was both covert and swift, and Ch41 would not be able to discover it. After eliminating the Alvli elven village, the army marched on. Ch41 rode on a tall nightmare warhorse, his mount, Mordika. This huge nightmare warhorse wore thick armor, and while walking on its 4 hooves, it left trails of flames behind it that took some time to extinguish. Ch41 sat on his warhorse while holding his weapon, a black scythe. With thousands of demon troops escorting him, he looked magnificent. Over the next few days, the army encountered more migrating elves, and whenever it met them, Ch41 would explain the nature of demons to them. Destruction, all of it was destruction. Not to mention living creatures, even when they arrived at empty villages, Ch41 would set them ablaze and raze them to the ground. The trail that Ch41's demon army had left behind was only blood, corpses, and burnt ashes. Nothing else. These vile actions naturally incurred the wrath of the elves. On the 7th day of the march, an elven scouting troop discovered traces of Roy and the demon army. These elves should have gone back to report the whereabouts of the demon army upon discovering it. But unfortunately, they were enraged after seeing the bodies of their compatriots. In addition to wanting to avenge their compatriots, they had also found that this demon army had a large number of siege equipment. So after sending their pigeons to alert the rest, they caught up with the army from behind and launched a raid. There were not many of them, only about 100 or so, but since they were a scouting unit, their emphasis was on maneuverability. Therefore, this unit of the elven army was not slow-moving soldiers but all Pegasus knights. Pegasi were unique to the Alvli elves. Although they resembled ordinary horses, they had 2 wide wings on their backs. And in addition to being able to gallop on land, they could also fly quickly at low altitude. On every Pegasus rode an elven warrior. Although these warriors were light and not considered strong, When they held sharp blades and made use of the high speed of the Pegasi to charge, they often caused huge damage to their enemies. These 100-plus Pegasus Knights launched their attack against the demon army, and their target was clear: the heavy load that the demon army was transporting. These Pegasus Knights emerged from mid-air and swooped down straight for the gigantic catapults. When they flew by, they slashed the weaker support structures of the catapults and destroyed 4 of them in merely one round of attacks. When the heavy wooden catapults collapsed, they crushed many of the hellhounds nearby. The Pegasus Knights flying above the demon army angered Ch41. He would rather lose the army than the siege equipment. With the workmanship of the demons, repairing or even rebuilding them posed a challenge. Without siege equipment, Ch41 and his army would be at a loss upon reaching the elven cities. After all, he was leading only low-ranked demons and did not have many attacking methods against tall city walls. Seizing the opportunity while the Pegasus Knights were circling back at low altitude, Ch41 raised his demon scythe and used it as a magic staff. Following his action, a bolt of lightning appeared over the Pegasus Knights flying in. The lightning first hit one of the Pegasus Knights' heads and then struck another Pegasus Knight behind. This bolt of lightning jumped back and forth 7 or 8 times among the Pegasus Knights, giving them no time to react before striking them. Every knight struck by the lightning became charred and, together with their Pegasus, fell from the sky, turning into meat sauce as they hit the ground. This spell was chain lightning and absolutely powerful. Seeing this scene, Roy could not help but pay silent tribute for these Pegasus Knights. Based on his observation during this time, he discovered that Ch41, this high-ranked demon, knew the 4 magic elements in this world, and at least 2 magic elements were advanced. One was the earth element, and the other was the air element. The earth magic was when the volcano was detonated, and Roy had seen the earthquake spell. And the air magic was the chain lightning just now. As for water magic, Ch41 seldom used it. But when Roy was summoned, he suffered from the weakness spell that even negated his bloodlust, so his water magic was definitely not low level. As for the final fire magic, Roy had not seen Ch41 use it. But Roy was sure that he would, because demons from the abyss of the demon world were accompanied by magma and fire since birth, and not knowing fire magic was almost impossible for him. Roy even suspected that fire magic might be Ch41's forte, but he had never shown it. This was the part that made Ch41 difficult to deal with. He not only knew 4 magic elements but also at quite high levels. But Roy had never seen Ch41 use dark magic. He did not know if it was because the 4 magic elements were more suitable for army battles, or because this world had rules that restricted the type of magic that was usable. Roy guessed that it was the former because he could use bloodlust whenever he wanted and never felt any suppression by the world's rules. Regardless, Ch41's chain lightning had left the Pegasus Knights nervous and dispersed them. This scouting unit was only a small-scale unit, and there were no elven heroes among them. Someone that appeared to be a leader shouted loudly. This leader was slightly different from the rest. He and his Pegasus were both wearing silver armor. And under his command, the Pegasus Knights began opening distance between themselves, leaving no opportunity for Ch41 to continue using chain lightning. Ch41 snorted coldly and raised his scythe again, but this time he released a shield spell on the demon army. Afterward, Ch41 roared at the Gogs in the army, "Fire! Take them down!" The Gogs immediately spat their saliva into their palms and then threw them at the Pegasus Knights flying in the air. The next moment, large amounts of flames exploded in the sky. These balls of flames did not need to be precise. As long as the Pegasus Knights were near the explosions, the flames would ignite the Pegasus feathers, injuring the Pegasi and causing them to fall from the sky immediately. The hellhounds that were anxiously waiting below instantly rushed forward and tore the Pegasi and their riders into pieces. Seeing their comrades being killed made the Pegasus Knight's eyes bulge in anger. The silver Pegasus Knight leader shouted, "Revenge!" He took the lead to swoop down. Under his lead, the other knights rushed down and engaged in a ground battle with the demon army. They had already cast life and death aside and had no thoughts about returning alive, so they fought fearlessly. After landing, some of them resisted the attacks of the demon army, while the rest continued to destroy the siege equipment. "Don't let them destroy the remaining catapults. Kill them!" Ch41 roared. He tightened his legs around the nightmare warhorse and waved his demon scythe to lead the army forward to kill. Roy naturally rushed forward as well. He ran into the troop of hellhounds and met up with Fat Tiger before fighting the Pegasus Knights together. Compared to the other low-ranked demons, Roy was much bigger and taller, so he attracted the attention of the Pegasus Knights as soon as he appeared. After 2 Pegasus Knights killed the hellhound in front of them, they waved their long swords and stabbed at Roy. However, before their long swords could pierce him, They felt that their swords seemed to have become stuck in a quagmire. There was a flexible resistance in their hands that was strenuous to overcome. The sudden resistance distracted them and slowed their hand movements. The consequence was fatal. The next second, Roy's claws reached for their throats and ripped them open. The Pegasus Knights died tragically, and their Pegasi were not spared either. Roy held down one Pegasus with one hand while tearing its wings into pieces using the other hand. Fat Tiger attacked the remaining Pegasus. He threw it to the side and used the sharp fangs of his three heads to bite it to death. Roy discreetly waved his hand and stored the souls of the two Pegasus Knights into the system. He saw from the corner of his eye that Zeron was on a killing rampage and not paying any attention to the situation on his end, leaving Roy at ease. One demon and one dog charged into the battlefield. They not only killed the enemies that attacked them but also continued collecting the floating souls on the battlefield. And every single Pegasus Knight that confronted Roy encountered the same situation as the two Pegasus Knights earlier. When they attacked him, it was as though there was an invisible air cushion shield around Roy. They did not know that this was Roy using psychokinesis. Roy's psychokinesis was a byproduct brought about by the perfect strengthening of the T-virus. He had not created it himself, so he could not define and change the attributes. Psychokinesis was weak before, and the range of usage was relatively small, so besides using it to show off, he had never truly used it in combat. Roy initially thought that the psychokinesis ability had something to do with mental power, but the problem was that Roy did not have a mental power attribute. As such, he never found a way to enhance psychokinesis. Even repeated use of it did not seem to improve it. It was not until Roy had discovered that souls could be used to make magic energy growth potions and took them that he suddenly discovered the power of psychokinesis had grown. At first, psychokinesis seemed only able to control objects of low mass. But now, psychokinesis could even control things that were invisible such as air. He could use the power of psychokinesis to compress air and greatly increase its density to form an air shield to protect his front. This reason for this change was naturally the increase of his magic energy, so it was not until now that Roy realized he was previously mistaken. The body structures of demons and humans were different. Humans might have something like mental power, but for demons, the source of all energy stemmed from the demon heart. The demon heart was where a demon's energy was created. When the magic energy growth potions increased his magic energy, it naturally strengthened his heart. The stronger heart, in turn, strengthened the power of psychokinesis. After discovering this, Roy was elated. When he had obtained the psychokinesis ability, he initially thought that the upper limit of this power was not as simple as the way Alice used it in Resident Evil. It should have been like in Saint Seiya, like the Ares Saint, Mr. Mew's psychokinesis. Chapter 49, Searching for a Sawmill. Psychokinesis, the ability to intervene in the movement of material systems through the mind. In theory, regardless of whether it was macroscopic matter or microscopic matter, psychokinesis could intervene with it. Although air was invisible, it was indeed matter that existed. Even though Roy had not reached the stage of being able to control various air molecules through psychokinesis, he could use it to control an area of air and compress it, resulting in the principle of an air shield. With such a buffer layer, Roy had many advantages in chaotic fights. He was mainly involved in melee combat and naturally had to face many of these enemies head-on. Even a 0.1 seconds lag in the enemy's attack could give Roy more time to react. Killing the enemy and collecting the scattered souls nearby meant that Roy had to monitor Zeron's situation while fighting. Indeed, as Roy had guessed, personally joining the fight greatly excited Zeron. He was vividly displaying the demon's bellicose attitude. Blood continuously splattering in all directions caused Zeron's demon eyes to turn red and dreadful. As he eliminated his enemies, he was roaring maniacally. A soul floated out from one of the Pegasus Knights he killed. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed it. The terror in that soul of the Pegasus Knight became a wonderful taste that lingered in his mouth, causing him to gasp comfortably before continuing to raise his scythe and harvest enemy lives. Yes, Zeron, as Roy had guessed, devoured souls as he killed. In fact, it was not only the loophole in the contract that prompted him to do so, but also because Ignatius, who remained in the Demon City, was going to summon high-level demons. In order to kill the Gold Dragon Queen, Zeron needed a high-level demon army to help, but there was a price for summoning these high-level demons. Zeron and the other two had to share the souls with them. Thus, the situation was that Zeron felt his expected returns had lessened, and he was trying to make up for it by devouring souls on the battlefield. Actually, Zeron had slight regrets now. He regretted promising Roy 10% of spoils in the contract. At that time, He thought that by relying on a large number of low-level demons, he could accomplish the task with ease, so he thought that it was worthwhile to give a little bonus to attract an elite demon like Roy. But unexpectedly, Ignatius and Rashka had brought news of the presence of the Gold Dragon Queen. Compared to Ignatius and Rashka, the other two high-ranked demons, Zeron had to give out more souls, so of course he would feel uncomfortable. Without a doubt, he was now trying to make up for the loss, so he would naturally make up for it through exploiting the contract with Roy. He fought and devoured souls with all his might, taking the opportunity to get as many as possible before the battle ended. However, little did he know that Roy was not only not annoyed with his action of devouring souls while fighting but instead happy. Eat all you want. I don't believe that you'll remember how many souls you devour. After all, there was a fixed number of Pegasus Knights. If they were all eliminated, then the number of corpses should correspond to the number of souls. If Roy were the only one grabbing souls, then Zeron would have been able to tell how many were missing. But now that Zeron himself was devouring souls, the number of corpses and souls would not match at the end of the battle, and he might not necessarily be able to tell that Roy had taken some. Now, Roy could snatch souls at ease. He specially selected the areas that had more souls and ran over. When he found a Pegasus Knight to fight, he roared and roared, pretending to be fighting hard but was actually collecting the souls nearby. After collecting nearly 40 souls, the battle was drawing to an end, and Roy stopped. The entire Pegasus Knight force was wiped clean. Since they had not chosen to escape, the demons would have no mercy, and more than 200 Pegasus Knights and Pegasi died here. However, although they all died in battle, they had caused significant damage to the demon army. Pegasus Knights were considered mid-level soldiers among the elves and were relatively lethal. In this attack, Zeron's demon army lost over 100 little demons and more than 10 hellhounds. But the largest loss was the siege equipment. The Pegasus Knights had destroyed half of the 10 catapults that Zeron brought, as well as 3 bed crossbows. After the battle, Zeron was enraged upon seeing the damaged equipment. He knew his march had been delayed. When the little demons collected the souls floating on the battlefield and presented them to Zeron, he felt as if some were missing but did not pay it much attention since he had not counted how many souls he had devoured. Furthermore, he thought that no one would have the courage to dare to snatch and devour souls that belonged to him. As a high-ranked demon, Zeron was overconfident. Never would he have thought that someone not only dared to steal his souls but also not just a couple of them but around 40 of them. While there had been over 200 Pegasus Knights and Pegasi, Zeron obtained only a bit more than 160 souls in the end. And Zeron had to give about 16 to Roy. After this one battle, Roy had obtained over 50 souls. And this was just a small-scale battle. Roy estimated that he could get more souls in a larger-scale battle. After receiving the 16 souls that Zeron reluctantly handed over, Roy pretended to be greedy and stuffed them all into his mouth to swallow. But in fact, he stored them using the storage function of his system. After eating, Roy said to Zeron with a satisfied expression, "Thank you for your generosity, Your Excellency Zeron. Your violence and bravery is the role model of the demons." After Roy's bootlicking, Zeron felt much better. He could not have heard these words from other low-level demons, so he left and said, "Okay, I'll now give you a mission. You've also seen that those damned Ovli elven scouts have damaged our catapults. Now, we must repair them. I will temporarily stop here with the army. You bring some people and look around to see if you can find an elven sawmill. Get us some wood and repair these catapults." "Yes, Your Excellency Zeron." Roy bowed his head slightly, expressing his acknowledgement of the order. After withdrawing a distance while walking backward, he turned around and left to gather troops. Zeron was very impatient with trivial matters like repairing the siege equipment. In the past, he used to have to handle these things personally, but now that he had a smart demon helper like Roy, Zeron was naturally lazy. Roy brought a fat tiger, 10 hellhounds, and 20 little demons and left the camp to search for a sawmill. Due to his laziness, Zeron had let Roy out of his sights, creating a good opportunity for Roy to escape. But Roy did not intend to do so. Now that the demons had invaded the border of Arathia, it meant that the humans and their allies, the elves, had entered a state of war. What if he ran into their army if he escaped? A single demon only had one outcome in front of so many enemies. Besides, Roy needed a large amount of magic energy if he had wanted to reverse-activate the summoning formation. His most important task now was to remain in the demon army and gather enough souls to strengthen his magic energy. Although he had no intention of escaping, being able to lead a group out alone was a very good opportunity for Roy. A very good opportunity to play a trick on someone. Chapter 50, Who have I, Ch41, been afraid of? Although this area where the elves lived had trees everywhere, these trees could not be used by simply cutting them down. The wood needed to be processed into standardized timber before it could be used to build and repair the various types of equipment. And this was why Ch41 got Roy to go out and look for a sawmill. Roy brought this small demon team and randomly chose a direction to go in. Under Roy's instructions, Fat Tiger kept his eyes open and carefully sniffed the many scents in the air in fear that they would bump into enemies on the way. Meanwhile, Roy walked quietly while pondering his plans. Roy felt that the reason the Pegasus Night Unit had recklessly attacked Ch41's demon army and focused on destroying the siege equipment was that there was an elven settlement nearby. It might be a city or a fortress, but the defense of the city walls was unlikely to be strong. The Pegasus Knights probably thought that the demon army's invasion was against this city, so to prevent the capture of that weakly defended city, they spared no effort in destroying the siege equipment. This was very simple logic that did not require much thought. Roy believed that Ch41 should have also guessed this. That he did not choose to continue marching, but instead to stop and repair the catapults meant he had the intention to take down this city or even destroy it. However, this was not what Roy wanted to see happen. He was not worried about the elves, but rather, he did not want to see the elves remain in their cities. Based on the current situation, the elves were probably unaware of the demon army's real plan. They likely thought that the demons were only invading their land, but in reality, Ch41 and the others' true goal was to kill the Gold Dragon Queen. If these elves wrongly assumed the demon army's military objective, they would position their troops in cities to defend against and prevent the invasion. The Gold Dragons would also help them defend the cities. But as a result, the elven troops would be spread out, and the protection of the Gold Dragon Queen would also weaken. At that time, they might be destroyed by the demon army. Therefore, Roy felt that he had to make the elves aware of this. However, doing this would be very troublesome. After all, Roy was a demon. If he dared to appear near the elven city, he would be shot dead. And even if he had a chance to speak, the elves were unlikely to believe a demon. As a demon, this was the worst aspect. In the eyes of others, demons were synonymous with lies and evil. Even an occasional word of truth was ignored. This really was a world where appearance was everything. He looked around while thinking and found that he was quite unlucky in the end. There seemed to be no sawmills in this direction, so he could only turn around and search in another direction. Without satellites and GPS, searching was slow. In addition, Roy did not dare venture too far in any direction and could only go back and forth. Finally, Roy flew into the sky and eventually found a sawmill before rushing over with his team. This was a sawmill deep in the forest and very concealed. If not for noticing that there was a piece missing in the middle of the forest, Roy would have been unable to locate it. Precisely because of the concealment, there were actually no elven guards here. As Roy and his team neared, they heard the sound of sawing wood. More than 20 loggers were working, cutting off the branches of the harvested wood, removing the bark, sawing the round wood into blocks, and finally turning them into a flat square. When they saw Roy and his team of demons appear, the loggers were stunned. After coming back to their senses, they screamed in panic and frantically scattered in all directions to escape. However, the hellhounds and little demons rounded them up. One of the hellhounds could not control its hunger. It bit a logger to death and ate his soul. At the end, when this group of loggers appeared before Roy, all he saw was a bunch of quivering quails. "Don't worry. As long as you cooperate, I won't hurt you," Roy said while looking down at this group of loggers. "Now, this sawmill is under the control of the demons. I want you to continue working and producing wood." He had no option apart from being cold-faced. Even if Roy had said this with a smile, these loggers would not have believed that he was kind, so Roy might as well use coercion. With that, this group of loggers was under Roy's control. The wood they produced, under Roy's arrangement, was dragged back to the demon camp by the 10 hellhounds and 20 little demons. The production efficiency of these loggers was not high, and everything was hand-done without the use of machinery. Before producing enough wood, Roy could only wait around here. These loggers were civilians. From Roy's observation, they were all elves, but most were old. Under Roy's supervision, they were very nervous, and some of them had even crushed their own fingers. Roy ignored their perturbed looks. He pointed at the foreman of the elves and said, "You, come here." The foreman was frightened and trembled while walking over. "Yes, sir. Your Excellency, what do you need?" "Can you read?" Roy asked. "Your elven language. Do you know how to read and write?" Of course. The foreman nodded hurriedly. Good. Go and find a piece of paper. Parchment is fine too. Then write down in the Elven language what I'm going to say. Any questions? Roy asked. No. Of course, the foreman had no questions. He had no queries as long as Roy did not want to eat him. After the elf brought parchment and a quill pen, Roy started speaking. Write this, arrogant of Lians. Upon hearing the first sentence, the foreman raised his head in astonishment and looked at Roy while thinking, how are we Ovlians arrogant? Are the Ovlians as arrogant as you demons? Roy glared at him viciously before he came back to his senses and burst into a cold sweat. He quickly moved the quill pen and recorded Roy's words. Arrogant Ovlians. How dare you stand in the way of the demon army entering the kingdom of Arathia? Now, in the name of high-ranked demon Lord Xeron, I hereby announce that we sentence the Ovli elves to death. We will destroy your cities and kill the queen of the gold dragons. As long as you continue to block the iron hooves of the demon army, the killing will not stop. Your world shall burn at my feet. Roy thought for a moment before adding at the end. I am a demon. That foreman trembled as he listened to Roy's domineering declaration, but he gritted his teeth and recorded all of Roy's words in the Elven language. Finally, he presented it to Roy with both hands. Roy took it and saw the series of beautifully written characters on it. Despite not knowing what was written, he knew the foreman would not dare to write gibberish, so he put the parchment away after blowing the ink dry. This was a letter of challenge that was to be handed to the elves. Roy used Xeron's name because he knew that the elves would not believe him even if he wrote it in the capacity of an undercover agent in the demon army. The elves might even think that it was a scheme and instead increase the number of troops guarding their cities. Therefore, Roy simply wrote this letter of challenge with a strong attitude. Only in this way would the elves attach great importance to it when their army received it. Now, the only problem remaining was how he was going to deliver this letter of challenge.